Yes, hello from Helsinki, Finland. This is Tim Becker speaking, and I want to welcome you to this webinar on the new Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation of 13th of June of this year, and what are the implications for India-based product manufacturers exporting to the European Union. So this is a REACHLaw webinar which is specifically provided for CHEMEXCIL. So welcome and thank you also to CHEMEXCIL for co-organizing this event. So I will give the word to CHEMEXCIL representative for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, dear members. I'm happy to extend a warm welcome to each one of you for today's and highly anticipated webinar on eco-design for sustainable products and regulations, called as ESPR. This new EU regulations, ESPR, came into force in July 18, 2024, which represent a significant shift towards enhancing environmental sustainability across the European product landscape. The aim of the webinar is to provide with you the overview of the ESPR interface with EU REACH, key requirements, main sectors affected by these new regulations, its implications, action plans for companies. Our distinguished speakers are Mr. Tim Becker, who is a senior legal advisor for REACHLaw Finland. He has specialized in environmental law, chemical safety, and product regulations. And Mr. Gagan Kumar, Director, REACHLaw India Private Limited. He plays a pivotal role in providing expert advice to the Indian companies on EU regulations and facilitate smooth market access to the EU. I'm sure this webinar will offer a valuable understanding and vision for ESPR to all the participants. And without a further delay, I hand over this webinar to our expert speaker who will enlighten us with their valuable insights. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So you have already kindly introduced the two of us. So here also with pictures. So myself, Tim Becker, Senior Legal Advisor with REACHLaw, and Gagan Kumar, Director at REACHLaw India. Hello, Gagan.
Hello, Tim. Hello, participants. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on. So some practical information for this webinar. So I suggest that we make this webinar interactive. So you are able to send us questions when you use the chat function here in the webinar interface. So please do that. And I will try to answer your questions in the Q&A session as far as the time permits, and also as far as the question allows, of course. Some of you have sent questions prior to the webinar. They have been considered for the presentations as far as possible already, and I have also addressed two dedicated questions at the end of my presentation already. So we'll get to that. And a recording of this webinar will be made available to you as well after this session. And in any case, we will appreciate your feedback on this presentation. So thank you already for that. So we have quite a good amount of time, roughly 90 minutes for this webinar. And I think the time is well required because the agenda is comprehensive. I'd like to start together with Gagan to tell a little bit about REACHLaw, our company, and then we will go into the regulation. I want to provide you an overview of the ESPR and also the interface with other laws such as the EU REACH regulation. And then from there, I'll go to discuss the key requirements and actors affected. then the main products that are being prioritized for setting specific requirements. Under point 5, I will highlight the timeline and the next steps. So how is implementation organized of this ESPR? Under point 6, I will discuss some implications for India-based product manufacturers exporting to the EU. And then we'll move on to the conclusions and giving some advice to companies on what you can do at this point to prepare for the regulation. We'll also highlight some REACHLaw support services at the end. And then, as said, we shall have some time for questions and answers. So this is a disclaimer and copyright notice, a standard notice that we have for our presentations. So if you receive a copy of this presentation, it should be okay to share it amongst the participants of this meeting. And if you intend on disseminating the presentation more broadly, you have to contact me prior to that. Okay, and with this, I think I will remove my camera because we want to focus on the contents. So REACHLaw in brief. Okay, so for all of you who don't know us yet, we are a consulting company specialized in chemicals regulatory compliance and the evolving framework of EU environmental sustainability legislation. And of course, ESPR is a key piece of such legislation. Our company is headquartered in Helsinki, Finland since 2006. And nowadays, we also have offices in a number of countries outside the EU. Other than our name suggests, we are not a law firm, even though I'm myself a legal expert, I'm a lawyer, but we are a multidisciplinary team to be able to serve our customers on the complex topic of chemical and related product regulations. So we provide a broad range of market access services, focusing, of course, on the EU as far as the EU regulations are concerned, but then also focusing on other markets, especially where those somehow take inspiration from the EU requirements in order to deliver safe and sustainable products to customers. We support different types of industries. Of course, chemicals industry is a key customer group that we have, but we also reach out down the supply chain, and we also have a strong foothold, for example, in textiles, in aerospace and defense, electronics, and so on. So, and here this gives you an overview of our geographical coverage. So headquartered in Finland, and then we have offices at the moment in the UK, in Belgium, Brussels. Then we are in Istanbul, Turkey, and South Korea, also Seoul. And last but not least, of course, also we are represented in India with an own entity. Gagan will say a bit more about it shortly. We are also now planning to set up an office in Ukraine. Okay, and with this, I hand it over to Gagan to say a few words about our REACHLaw India organization.
Yes, thank you, Tim. And so for companies who are attending this webinar, we would like to mention again that we have our own subsidiary in India, which is based in New Delhi by the name REACHLaw India Private Limited. And REACHLaw as such is already present in India since 2008. We are now working with total full-time 12 employees having different expertise, ranging the requirements posed by the REACH and other regulations. So we are providing services locally to the customers who are exporting chemicals in different markets where we are present as REACHLaw. We are providing all market access services. So this is how our team is set up, and we are also looking to expand our presence within India itself, supporting companies also near to their locations. So that is how we are going to add up more customer support and services in near future. And when it comes to the regulatory support, as mentioned, that we are essentially providing market access and reach like regulations. So please feel free to contact us if you have any support in these requirements, or if you are looking any advice when you are looking to comply with these regulations, starting from EU REACH and registration services, and be it starting with India, we have some developments, but right now we are providing more support on BIS license and how you can secure your access, or if you have your suppliers outside India, we can also support them in securing license through foreign manufacturer certification scheme, as the authority of BIS is located at New Delhi. And then coming over to other global regulations, which is of course supported by REACH, and similar requirements are coming in different countries. So we are happy to assist you. And going forward, I think sustainability is something which we want to also add up, and this is where this webinar will speak. And so what services we have, we will of course support Indian companies with ESPR. With this, I would again hand over this to Tim to take it further and close this, I think, important sessions for our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Gagan. Okay, then just a reminder that you can also follow like a broader range of our webinars and other information events on YouTube. It's called REACHLaw Talks. So we will you will be able to see some of the key recordings we provide on different regulatory topics in the EU and beyond. Here you can see an overview of the upcoming events where REACHLaw will be present until the end of this year. So we are in different locations. I will be in Germany next week for a REACH Congress. Then we have an event in the UK later this month, and then Gagan will come to Brussels, Belgium, for the global chemical regulatory updates on the 16th of October. So if you should attend any of those events, feel free to contact us and talk to our people there. Okay, and with this, I would like to start on the topic of today, which is ESPR, and provide you an overview. So where are we at the moment? You can see here like an overview of ESPR at a glance. So it came into force during the summer. On the 18th of July, the regulation entered into force, an EU regulation which is establishing a framework for the setting of eco-design requirements for sustainable products. And it basically will replace the current eco-design directive, which is focusing on energy-related products. So it's very important already to remember here that we currently only have a framework regulation. So it's a framework of general rules which need to be further specified to make them applicable for certain companies and products. So you can only see what is possible basically to be regulated, but you do not see yet exactly what is or will be regulated for specific products, such as specific chemicals or so. So the objective of ESPR is to improve the overall environmental sustainability of products which are placed on the EU market or put into service here. And for doing this, the ESPR is taking like a broad life cycle approach, and wants to ensure that like already at the design stage of products, so when they are manufactured, they are basically compliant with the idea of eco-design, and considers all the possible life cycle impacts that may occur further downstream when the product is used, or then when it's becoming waste. The ESPR is a very broad scope regulation. It covers virtually all products, all the physical goods placed on the market or put into service in the EU. It will affect companies both in the EU but also outside of the EU who are exporting their products or materials to the EU market. There are only very limited exclusions which you will find in the ESPR, which are for groups such as food, feed, and medicinal and veterinary products. Then there are also some defense-related exclusions and for motor vehicles, but maybe not so much of relevance for you. As I already mentioned, the details of the regulation and the requirement is still to be specified in the future, and this will happen as part of European Commission delegated acts for specific product groups according to a working plan. And in addition, there's also the possibility for the Commission to set so-called horizontal requirements, which can then apply to a broader range of similar products. The requirements may be information requirements and or performance requirements. And as part of performance requirements, you can also have, for example, possible restrictions on substances, so that certain substances should no longer be part of the product in order to not to negatively affect the circularity. I should also still mention that as for now, ESPR is focusing on environmental aspects, but in the future it could also be expanded to cover social aspects in relation to sustainability. And a big element also which we are going to discuss today of ESPR is the digital product passport, which will be a new information tool under ESPR to transmit information on the sustainability of the product in the supply chain. So this much about ESPR at a glance. I don't want to discuss today mandatory green public procurement requirements, and also I will not discuss the framework in ESPR to prevent unsold consumer products from being destroyed. I think this is not so much of relevance for you at this point, and so just make clear here that this is not covered in the slides. So if we look at the regulation as it now stands, we can see there is a lot to read, a lot to digest, and more information is still to come, because the implementation of ESPR is now only starting after having been adopted. The final text of the regulation includes 80 articles and a large number of recitals, 122 recitals. I would suggest you could have a look at the recitals, because they are interesting, because they explain the background and the rationale, the reasoning for the ESPR and the different provisions which you find in the articles. In addition to that, you also have background documents to ESPR, especially the Commission proposal for the regulation of March 22. Then also extensive impact assessment documents the Commission prepared back then. And then you will also find some documents from the European Parliament and other EU institutions, which they prepared during adoption of the law. But now most of the product-specific information is still to come. Yeah, so we are expecting the creation of a so-called eco-design forum, which will include stakeholders from different fields in order to support the definition of eco-design requirements. So there will be a lot of useful information generated by this in this forum. Then we are expecting a lot of further consultations and impact assessments to define product-specific measures. And of course, at the end of the road, there will be a Commission implementing acts or delegated acts, the so-called eco-design measures, which will then foresee basically the hard requirements which will apply to defined products. So yeah, so there's a lot of information already out there and still to come. And of course, once it comes to the implementation by duty holders, they also have to produce certain documentation like conformity assessments, technical documentation, and last but not least, the digital product passport. Yeah, by the way, we also have a webinar coming up on the topic, which will be next Thursday on the 12th of September. And when promoting this upcoming webinar for the next week, we have asked companies about the main challenges which they face with regard to the ESPR. And you can see I have tried to map those challenges on this mind map here. So there is actually a great diversity of challenges that they were reported by companies. I have tried to group them into main topics, which you can find reflected here. Most of the companies are actually unsure whether, when, and how ESPR could impact their products and business, and also what resources in terms of people, experts, and money will be needed to comply. So these are valid concerns. There are also many questions about the interface with other laws, such as the REACH regulation, specific product legislation, packaging laws, and so on. And what is also triggering a lot of questions and uncertainty is the implementation of the digital product passport, especially, companies are asking, so what are the technical aspects? How is this working in practice? What has to be in the passport? This is not certain yet. And how will the data be managed for the preparation of those DPPs? Because you have to collect the data from somewhere internally and from your supply chain. So it is a fact that there are lots of unknowns at the moment. And this is mainly because this ESPR regulation is defined as a framework. And as I already mentioned, the implementation by the European Commission is only starting. Now, if we look a bit at the interface of ESPR with other laws, we can see that the ESPR is addressing foremost the environmental sustainability of products placed on the EU market or put into service. And then in addition to ESPR, we have a number of other sustainability requirements which have been introduced in the EU recently under the European Green Deal of 2019. So you find a little non-exhaustive overview here. As an example, we also have now the EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, CSDDD, which also entered into force during this summer. And this directive established a due diligence duty for certain large companies in the EU in order to identify and address adverse human rights and environmental impacts for their own operations, their subsidiaries, but also in their value chains. So therefore, it is expected that this directive is also going to affect non-EU companies, non-EU suppliers. Another initiative which is still in the process of being put into law is the EU Green Claims Directive, which aims to protect consumers from greenwashing. However, this Green Claims Directive, you should note, will not apply to business relationships. So only products, or as far as environmental claims are concerned, when selling the product to consumers. But it may also become relevant directly or indirectly to you. So that's for the sustainability requirements. And then, of course, an interesting question: what is the relationship with the chemical safety laws, such as EU REACH, CLP, etc.? The ESPR regulation addresses this relationship actually with great attention in the final ESPR text. So if we look, for example, at this recital 26, it states that chemical safety is a recognized element of product sustainability, so it's part of a sustainable product. However, it also states that chemical safety is already addressed by existing union legislation on chemicals, such as, for example, REACH, CLP, and cosmetics regulation, and so on. And therefore, in order to avoid double regulation, the ESPR clarifies that eco-design measures under ESPR should not provide for the restriction of substances based primarily on chemical safety, because this is then taken care of by those chemicals laws. Instead, the ESPR will address impacts on environmental sustainability that are unrelated to chemical safety, or where chemical safety is not the main driver. So ESPR may foresee substance-based restrictions based on environmental considerations. And in addition, ESPR may also set information requirements concerning the presence of so-called substances of concern. I will come back to that. Substances of concern can be subject to information requirements under ESPR. And information on those SOCs, how they are also abbreviated, will then be transmitted in the value chain through the digital product passport for regulated products. So these information requirements under ESPR will come on top of the existing requirements that we know from REACH and CLP, like safety data sheets, CLP labels, or a skip notification for substances of very high concern in articles. So they will coexist, those requirements, as far as information is reporting is concerned. But the ESPR also stresses that the Commission should take into account those existing chemical safety requirements and consider linking them. So, for example, with the digital product passport. However, it still remains to be seen how this will be done in practice. So the interface of ESPR and REACH is a little bit of a tricky one, but we already have some clarifications in the ESPR text as I presented to you. Now a bit more words about the key ESPR requirements and what are the actors concerned. So eco-design requirements under ESPR may regulate a great number of product aspects throughout the whole life cycle of a product. And in the Article 5 of the ESPR, 16 product aspects are now listed as they are reflected here on this slide. And I have grouped them a little bit according to their, what kind of issue they address. So is it about lifetime, composition, the resource use, circularity aspects, or footprint? So, but you can see that this is a very broad approach, which goes much beyond energy efficiency aspects, which have been the focus under the current eco-design directive. So key examples for those product aspects are, for example, to enhance the durability of a product, to improve the recyclability, to address recycled contents in requirements, and so on. I don't have to read them all out. So basically, if you look at those aspects all together, you can see that they basically describe the criteria for an environmentally sustainable product. But it should also be noted at the same time that not all of these aspects have to be regulated for each product group, but only the most relevant of these aspects from an environmental sustainability perspective expected to be addressed when setting the specific eco-design requirements in the future. So this is just like a pick list. You can understand like a pick list for the Commission then to see which kind of aspect would we want to regulate for a priority product. Okay, what are these eco-design requirements? We just discussed the product aspects that may be regulated. So what are the requirements? I already mentioned previously that eco-design requirements may take the form of performance requirements and or information requirements. And those two types of requirements may be, again, either product specific, so as part of product specific measures, or there may be so-called horizontal requirements, which are covering several product groups with sufficient technical commonalities. So it's a big question, what would that mean, and which like products would be considered as similar in order to define those horizontal requirements. For the performance requirements, they may be either quantitative or non-quantitative. So a quantitative performance requirement may be, for example, a minimum recycled content in a product, or a limit value of energy used. And a non-quantitative performance requirement may, for example, be a restriction for substances which are inhibiting circularity. So those performance requirements are basically used to ensure the removal of the worst performing products from the EU market. And those performance requirements still need to be established, and there's a specific procedure in the Annex 2 to the ESPR, which will require a technical, environmental, and economic analysis. So this is all, just to remind you, still coming up, these detailed assessments. So this much about the performance requirements, and then on the right-hand side, you see we have also the information requirements, and they should include at least provisions for so-called substances of concern. I will come back to that. And secondly, for the digital product passport. And in addition to those two aspects, there may also be additional information, part of information requirements in digital product passport, for example, on classes of performance, handling, recycling. So basically to give information to the user to influence sustainable product choices. Okay, and then we have already heard several times about the substances of concern. What are they? There is a definition in Article 2 of the ESPR. And so actually substances of concern are defined very broadly in the regulation. Those comprise 4 independent subgroups which are non-cumulative. So it means that, for example, looking at the first group, REACH candidate list substance, if you have such a substance, it is a substance of concern. Then the second group is substances with a certain harmonized classification according to the CLP regulation. So you find the list of hazard criteria here in the table. So there are 8 criteria relating to human health and 5 relating to environmental criteria. So for this you have to look into Annex 6 of CLP, the list of harmonized classifications for substances. Then the third subgroup of SOCs is substances regulated under the EU regulation on persistent organic pollutants. So this substance group was actually added only during the co-legislative process, so it was not yet part of the Commission proposal. And then maybe one of the most interesting parts of the definition is the number 4, circularity-based SOCs. So so-called substances which it says that negatively affect the reuse and recycling of materials in the products in which they are present. And the challenge is that we do not know today what are these substances, but a case-by-case assessment will be required here, which has to be done by the Commission when they define the requirements in the future to basically determine whether there are any such circularity-based substances of concern that would need to be identified in the eco-design measures. So a very complex definition of substances of concern, but you should consider this definition only as a pool of substances initially, from which like a more precise list will be developed when making product-specific measures. And then the next question connected to this is, how can substances of concern be regulated under ESPR? So substances of concern can be, first of all, subject to information requirements, and or they can be subject to performance requirements, as I already introduced, taking the form of restrictions. And with regards to the information requirements, the European Commission has clarified that by default, all substances of concern should be tracked. So basically everything that I have presented to you on the previous slide. However, the Commission in the delegated acts should define thresholds and exemptions from this tracking requirement where relevant. So the ESPR gives some possibilities to introduce exemptions and thresholds, and also application deadlines for certain chemicals. So with regards to performance requirements, as I already mentioned earlier, there may be restrictions for sustainability reasons, which are focusing on the eco-design criteria, which I already mentioned above. But again, just as a reminder, those ESPR-based substance restrictions should not provide for the restriction of substances based primarily on chemical safety, because for those restrictions we have mainly the EU REACH regulation already. So this is just the Commission approach on substances of concern and other substances which can be subject to the restrictions under ESPR. And then we have the famous topic of the digital product passport. So I already mentioned previously that the information requirements under ESPR should always include provisions on digital product passports for regulated products. And the digital product passport is basically seen as the future information system of the circular economy in the EU. And the DPP is basically a tool to electronically register, process, and share product-specific information related to sustainability, circularity, and legal compliance amongst supply chain businesses, for authorities, and also for end consumers in a structured way. So the general aim of the DPP is basically to improve the traceability and transparency regarding product information in the value chain as far as environmental sustainability is concerned. Also here, keep in mind that important details on the DPP, for example, on the granularity, on which level of a product should a DPP be required, what are the precise contents of the DPP, and what are the access rights of different target users of the DPP. Those details are still to be identified in product delegated acts by the European Commission in the future. And we currently expect that the first DPPs will be on the market and will be required from 2027, latest 2028. Now, the next question is, of course, which actors are affected? Who are the duty holders under ESPR? In general, ESPR duty holders are so-called economic operators along the value chain for the product. So these economic operators are mainly the product manufacturers, so both the EU and the non-EU manufacturers, then the EU importers, and furthermore distributors and dealers further down the value chain. And the ESPR compliance obligations are principally adapted to these different supply chain roles. So not every actor has the same duties. Yeah. So starting with the manufacturer, the product manufacturer, he has a detailed knowledge of the design and the production process, and he's therefore the principal duty holder under ESPR. The manufacturer is responsible for the conformity assessment and also the technical documentation and for preparing the digital product passport. The manufacturer may appoint a so-called EU authorized representative, but it should be noted that this representative has a limited mandate in relation to specific tasks only, for example, reporting to the competent national authorities. And we should not confuse this authorized representative with the only representative which we know from EU REACH. So the remit and what an authorized representative can do is different to what we know from REACH. So other than the manufacturer, we have the EU importers, which have a key role under ESPR, because they have to ensure that the products which they place on the EU market comply with the conformity assessment requirements, that they have the proper marking, CE marking, and documentation drawn up by the manufacturers. So basically, importers have to make sure that all these documents are available for inspection by the EU competent national authorities. And also the importers will have to ensure that where applicable, a digital product passport is available for those products. So yeah, so I thought I'd just introduce you those main two actors, the manufacturer and the EU importers, who have the main compliance obligations under ESPR. But as you see, the obligations also continue further down in the value chain. So much about the main actors and key requirements. And now, what are the main products affected? So that you will be very much interested in also. So I already mentioned that that ESPR basically addresses almost the full scope of physical goods that that are placed on the EU market or may address. But then, of course, some priority setting is required. And the Commission has already started on this priority setting exercise. So basically taking a look at the expected environmental impacts from different products in the EU. And here, together with the Commission's Joint Research Center, the Commission has already in the beginning of 2023 issued a preliminary analysis of product priorities under the ESPR. And this preliminary analysis was also subject to an online public consultation at the beginning of 2023. And this analysis is publicly available. And you will see that 19 product groups were shortlisted in this study, including 7 intermediate products and 12 end-use products. And with regards to chemicals, I can highlight that the following product groups were assessed in this report. So these were, as you all also see here from the overview, cosmetics, detergents, lubricants, paints, aluminum, chemicals, so the broader group of chemicals, then iron and steel, plastics and polymers, and non-ferrous metal products. So actually quite a few chemicals, both organic and inorganic, are being assessed here for the first product priorities for ESPR. Now, this was only a preliminary study, and we are still waiting today for the final report by the Commission, based also on the outcome of the public consultation of stakeholders. So these are not available yet. So would be interested to see how the final report on these product priorities is looking like. However, as we can see from the final text of the ESPR, the priority products have already been clarified in the ESPR final text, and this is presented here on this slide. So basically, here you see the overview of product groups which the Commission shall prioritize for its first ESPR working plan. So the Commission should adopt the first ESPR working plan by the 19th of April 2025 next year. And the 11 product groups displayed here should be, as a matter of principle, addressed in this or included in this working plan. So as you see, for example, for chemicals, so chemicals, the group of chemicals is included or should be included in this working plan. Then also paints, detergents, and lubricants. But for example, you do not see here cosmetics or the group of plastics and polymers, which were also part of the preliminary study. So this is a little bit surprising, maybe. But you should note that this list, these groups which you find here, is not fixed. It's not fixed yet, because the Commission can still decide for its first working plan for the next year to exclude certain of these product groups from the first working plan, or to include additional products to their priority plan, and they just need to provide a justification for listing or not listing certain product groups for the for first action, basically. So what is basically required from us is that we need to monitor the development of this first Commission working plan on ESPR to see what will eventually pop up next year and be subject to further work in order to define eco-design measures. Okay, and if we look a little bit deeper still into the chemicals topic, so which chemicals may be addressed first? So also here, this is just taken out from the preliminary study which I introduced before. So you see that not all the chemicals are proposed to be in scope of the eco-design work initially, but it's mainly about large volume inorganic chemicals, basic inorganic chemicals, and certain large volume organic chemicals. So you find the scope described in the preliminary study. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that this definition is not final. But still, you can see that there is a focus on some large volume chemicals, which have a high environmental impact. So there could be a high environmental benefit from regulating those in terms of their sustainability. And if you look on the right-hand side, you can also see that this Commission study provides a summary of potential eco-design measures which could be introduced to basically address the environmental impacts and reduce them. And so you find please do not take this information like as a draft measure already, but because a lot of further work will be required. But you can see that that certain performance requirements and information requirements for those chemicals are considered, like on minimum recycled content and energy use and consumption, and also, for example, source of raw materials from certified sustainable practices, whatever that means. But also was interesting to read in the preliminary study that no measures are envisaged under ESPR for human toxicity, because those related impacts mainly refer to chemical safety, and as I already mentioned, they are excluded from the scope of ESPR because there would be an overlap with REACH and CLP. And last but not least, I also want to highlight again that in addition to product-specific requirements, there is a possibility that the Commission will propose horizontal requirements across similar product groups. Those horizontal requirements, according to the Commission, may address, for example, the durability, recyclability, and recycled content. But if we look at the indication of the potential product groups that could be addressed now, or that the Commission may want to address as part of those requirements, you see that they are talking about textiles, furniture, mattresses, toys, and so on, and energy-related products. But you do not see chemicals directly targeted here as part of those horizontal measures. But of course, you could still be affected indirectly as far as you supply to one of those sectors, and then they are, of course, if they are subjected to horizontal requirements, this may also have like a knock-on effect on the upstream supply chain. But but this is very early stage of reflections by the Commission about those requirements. But they basically, as I understand, they would like to broaden the scope of their measures to not be overly product specific, but to cover as many products as possible, also for certain aspects by horizontal requirements, because it's just more efficient to act this way. So what we have to do also here is to keep monitoring what the Commission will be up to, what are their plans more specifically in order to introduce those requirements. Now a little bit on the timeline and the next steps. So here you have an overview of the ESPR implementation timeline. So the regulation entered into force during the summer on the 18th of July. And now the next bigger milestone is the formation of the so-called Eco-Design Forum. So which is basically a working group of different stakeholders, authorities, but also industry participants, which are supporting the development of those specific eco-design requirements. So we are waiting for the Commission to make their call for membership applications to this eco-design forum. That should happen anytime soon now. And then the first meeting of this eco-design forum is planned probably in early 2025. Then, as already mentioned, the first ESPR working plan with all the priority products should be adopted by the 19th of April next year. And then implementation continues for the next year. Some Commission acts relating to the practical aspects of the digital product passport are expected. And then also the first ESPR delegated act for prioritized products is expected, but that will be in earliest in 2026. And currently we expect those delegated acts for the product group of textiles and steel. So that is where we know at the moment that the Commission is working already on some specific requirements. And those specific requirements could then enter into force and become applicable for industry as early as in 2027, latest 2028. And then ESPR implementation will continue. The Commission will pick up other products, priority products, and do the similar kind of work that they have already started now for textiles and steel. So, but we do not have really much visibility on the product-specific work that the Commission is doing at this point. So a few words still about the development of eco-design measures. You already know now there is the working plan first, the ESPR working plan. And then based on this working plan, the Commission will carry out preparatory studies and impact assessments. This will happen in close interaction with stakeholders. So industries, like if you are possibly affected, you can also participate in upcoming consultations. Then, as I already mentioned, these discussions on eco-design measures will be forwarded to the eco-design forum of different stakeholders. And finally, eco-design measures will be adopted. And once adopted, the measures will apply after a minimum transition period of 18 months. I have also included here on this slide some so-called negative criteria, which are taken from the ESPR legal text. So basically, where it is highlighted what eco-design measures should not cause. Yeah. So, for example, it is highlighted in ESPR that there should be no significant negative impact on the functionality of the product from the perspective of the user. So it's a nice message. Of what it means in practice is another question, and will probably be subject to some discussions and disagreements. But I think it is good to see this negative list, which is kind of also a little bit considering industry concerns in terms of guaranteeing functionality, guaranteeing also affordability of products, and avoiding disproportionate administrative burdens from eco-design requirements. Okay, what are the implications for you, for India-based product manufacturers exporting to the EU? I think you could have already understood part of it from my previous from my presentation. The expected impact is really depending very much on the ESPR implementation by the Commission. So you have seen there are many open questions still, like what is the precise definition of product groups to be regulated? How will the horizontal rules be applied? And to what extent performance requirements or information requirements will be set as part of the specific measures. You have already heard that the textiles and steel are amongst the first product groups where regulation is already in development. And we should keep in mind that even though this is not chemical industry, those eco-design measures on final products can also have knock-on effects for upstream suppliers, for example, in the chemicals industry. And I have also highlighted here for you in relation to the digital product passport, this product passport will only be applicable to regulated products. So for example, if textiles are regulated, then the DPP starts only at the level of the textile product. Yeah, so all the previous steps in the supply chain are not covered by the DPP, at least not as a mandatory requirement. But then, of course, there are still those mentioned knock-on effects, because the producer of the textile has to get the required information and the required quality of the raw materials to comply with the future requirements. So by the way, this work on the digital product passport is and how this should work in practice is currently conducted as part of a consortium called SURPASS-2, which has been running since May of this year and will continue until well in 2027. So and this is basically a group contracted by the European Commission to work out the practicalities of the digital product passport. In terms of legal compliance responsibility, I've already mentioned before that that indeed the manufacturer definition under ESPR is not explicitly limited to EU entities. So also if you look into the Commission's impact assessment for ESPR, you see that it states that the requirements apply in a non-discriminatory manner to EU and non-EU companies. So that is it's quite a clear message that non-EU companies also have to tackle, or the manufacturers also have to tackle ESPR in order to keep the EU market access open in the future. I already mentioned to you this possibility to authorize or to have an authorized representative in the EU. Just as a reminder here, so this is a possibility, but it may not solve all your problems that you will have in terms of ESPR. So we are expecting and we are hoping that Commission delegated acts could provide further clarity, also as far as the involvement and the workability for non-EU manufacturers is concerned. Okay. Then next is how will the enforcement look like and who will be in charge? So actually the ESPR regulation spends quite a lot of attention to the enforcement of the provisions, and one focus area is here also to ensure a level playing field of the EU and non-EU companies. And applicable provisions for the enforcement are set out in the market surveillance regulation in the EU, and those are complemented by ESPR provisions. penalties for non-compliance with ESPR, including fines, should also be defined, but they are not available today. But Article 68 of ESPR sets out the obligation for member states to define those penalties to ensure better enforcement and application of the rules. Of course, customs authorities will also have a key role to play in the implementation of ESPR for imported products. And then there are some additional enforcement tools which you find listed here. And one interesting provision is also the so-called private enforcement, which gives the consumers a right to claim compensation for non-compliance damage from the product's manufacturer, importer, or authorized representative. So that is, it's a possible liability risk if non-compliant products are placed on the EU market. Private enforcement. Okay, then I can move towards conclusions and action plan for companies. So what have we learned in terms of the main changes that the ESPR will bring? It will, as compared to the current eco-design directive, there is a much wider scope of application of this regulation, moving beyond energy-related products. The European Commission has an important role to play in the implementation of ESPR, especially by now defining what products to be prioritized and what requirements to set in terms of eco-design. There will be, as you have seen from the 16 product aspects, a more thorough consideration of circular economy issues for products. So that will for sure happen because chemical safety is more or less already regulated. So, but what about other aspects of environmental sustainability? The digital product passport will be a big topic, but keep in mind that it will only apply for regulated products. And yeah, so what is otherwise the main takeaway from all of this? Remember, this is only a framework regulation at this point. Many questions are still open. We have to see what will be regulated on a product-specific level. And also, we have seen that non-EU product manufacturers of regulated products will be in scope of the ESPR, and also other non-EU suppliers may face requests from their EU customers and from their value chain. So at this point, you see there's not much compliance action that you can take at this moment, but still there are ways and possibilities and needs to get prepared and be proactive. And I have summarized here a few actions that you can take in your company and with your business partners. Of course, you want to keep on familiarizing yourself with the ESPR and also with related sustainability requirements, as I have outlined a little bit at the beginning of the presentation. You should assess the possible impact and also your roles under ESPR. You may want to raise awareness on this new regulation within your company, but also with your supply chain to make them aware of what's coming and what is currently available and what not. It's important to really monitor now the implementation of ESPR, because this preparatory work now for the specific eco-design requirements is only starting. You have the possibility to join as a stakeholder for the preparation of eco-design requirements. For example, in Surpass 2, you can sign up as a stakeholder to follow how's the development of the DPP going, and the Commission is also in the future, as I mentioned, is organizing public consultations on draft eco-design measures where industry is then welcome to comment also on feasibility, proportionality, and so on. So I've also given you here a few references for further information. So REACHLaw website, of course, the ESPR final text, the legal text is the only legally binding source of the framework requirements. And I also included here an article which I wrote on ESPR 2 years back. Game changer or slow burner? Yeah, we have to wait. What will it be? How soon will it change the game of environmental sustainability? We shall see, but it is still a high priority in the EU, and it's a high priority for the European Commission for sure. REACHLaw support services. Yeah, I mean, we talked today about ESPR, and we can help you more specifically, of course, for your for the products that you are interested in. And this presentation was more generic, even though I tried to focus on chemicals to reflect your portfolio. But of course, we can provide more dedicated consultancy to help you address the possible impact from ESPR, and maybe also support you in the consultation process as a stakeholder when now the eco design measures are defined. We are also available to organize further training and awareness raising if this is of interest. And you also see here from the overview that we are not only active on eco design, but also on other topics such as the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and we may also be able to support you on other EU sustainability requirements. But keeping in mind always that, of course, you as the manufacturers, if you are the main experts for your products. So we can help you with the regulatory expertise. We can help you send the proper messages to the regulators. But you are the ones who know best what you can change about your products and what is a challenge and so on. And with this, what's the time? It's almost 2:15 in Finland, so we still have a little bit, like 20 minutes time. Questions and answers. We have received some questions prior to this webinar relating to specific products, so which I want to still address before I look into the chat. First question was, is compostable polymer compound a finished product covered under ESPR? And is there a DBP requirement for the same? And thus having REACH certification ease the process? And here my answer based on the presentation in which you have heard, the ESPR framework applies to any physical goods that are placed on the market or put into service. This includes also components and intermediate products. You have seen there are also only very limited exclusions, which are set out in Article 1, Paragraph 2 of ESPR. However, binding requirements, including also the DPP requirement, are still to be introduced. And currently, work is only ongoing for textiles and steel. And I refer you back to this 2023 preliminary study for the Commission, which I've introduced to you as part of the presentation. Or as far as REACH is concerned, REACH will continue to target the chemical safety, as I have explained, and ESPR will govern other product sustainability aspects. So my advice is that you would look more closely into the study for the Commission for this polymer compound, and also then keep monitoring the Commission activities for the first ESPR working plan. Another company asked, what are the actionable points with regards to additives for use in plastics, food additives, and cosmetic ingredients? So these are actually 3 different cases. For the food additives, I would understand that they are covered by the by the regulation in relation to food in the EU, which is excluded from the ESPR scope. But then you have the additives for use in plastics and cosmetic ingredients. So, and both of these product groups were assessed in the 2023 preliminary study for the Commission, but are not shortlisted in the list, which you find in Article 18 of the ESPR. So my advice is the same as above. Please have a closer look into the study and keep monitoring the Commission activities for the first ESPR working plan, which is due next April. And with this, I want to thank you for your attention. This has been a long presentation, but we are still within the time limit. So let me now look at the questions that were submitted in the chat, if any. Okay, well, I only see, if I'm not mistaken, one question, which was already asked prior to the webinar, so which I just answered. How about cosmetics and food items? Would they too be regulated by ESPR? So I just refer back to the to this slide number 45, and here you can find my view on this question. Other than that, would you still like to ask any question in the chat?
Tim, we have another question which I received. So this is the question. I read the question. How will the ESPR impact manufacturing processes and product development cost? So this is, I think, more of a generic question, maybe focus product groups or coming product groups. So maybe you would like to attempt.
Yeah, I mean, it's very it's a little bit too general, to be honest, to give a sensible answer. It depends very much on the nature of the requirements that will be set and to which product they will apply. So, and depending on the extent of the regulation, they may have a significant or less significant impact. But unfortunately, the question is a bit general.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see here a question. DPP will be provided through the only representative. The answer to this is no. There is no such only representative like role under the ESPR. I have introduced you the concept of authorized representative, which is a different concept. But the DPP, as I understand, it will be flowing in the. It will be actually it will be associated with the product, so it will be supplied together with the product. So that's that. Now another question came in. If our product just have one requirement, let's say durability or recycling content, then can we say this is ESPR compliant? Well, it depends again, how are the eco-design requirements drafted. If they address both the durability and recycled content, so like the future product-specific measures, then your product has to comply with all the requirements. So it's then not enough that they are just durable, but then they have to also meet the recycled content requirements. So of course you will have to comply with the full list of measures as they will be defined in the future. Yeah. But just as a reminder, the long list I have presented to you in this webinar of 16 product aspects, this is just like a pick list for the Commission now to start working out product-specific requirements for certain products. So we cannot really say much at this point on what the Commission and how they are going to regulate certain aspects and for which products. Hope this is clear. Also a question, how do we register for the webinar on the 12th? It's already answered. Published on our website under events section. Yes, very good. I wonder, can also a link be placed here in the chat? But in any case, I think you shall be informed, because actually the webinar will add some additional value, because we have an invited speaker from this Surpass consortium. So he will certainly tell us more about the state of play of the digital product passport, and what they are currently working on, what are their challenges, and what is basically, yeah, like the planned elements of the DPP. So that will be next Thursday, and so it's good to have also Surpass in the boat for this public webinar. Yes. Another question came in. Will it be mandatory to provide DPP for textile chemicals to export to EU from 2027? Yeah, again, a very straightforward question, which cannot be answered so easily, because we can only talk about estimates, but you are here talking about textile chemicals. And I think this relates to one of the slides I have shown previously. You know, the preparatory work which is now ongoing is for textiles, so certain textile products. I do not understand at this point that chemicals or textile chemicals would also be regulated as part of this delegated act, and would require a digital product passport. So yeah. We have to follow the Commission work on that. At this point, my understanding is that it will rather be the certain textile products which are also offered to consumers eventually, that will be a part of those measures, but not yet the chemicals needed for the production. But again, we haven't seen any draft, any text, and I can only invite you to follow the Commission work on the textile products. And we are, as far as the timeline is concerned, I think 2027, which is still communicated by the Commission, is quite ambitious for this complex set of new requirements. But we will see how successful the Commission will be with introducing eco-design measures for textile products by that time. Any other question? If we still have a couple of minutes, still give you some time to ask questions. Oh, sorry, I didn't put back on the camera. So here I am again for last time. So yeah, well, if there is no other question, no more questions submitted, then I would like to thank you very much for your attention during these past 80 minutes. I hope this has been useful. As said, there will be another webinar on the 12th of September. If you have further questions regarding your specific case, of course, you are free to reach out to REACHLaw, to me, to discuss this further and also confidentially. So thank you very much, and I think the webinar follow-up will be managed by CHEMEXCIL and my colleagues from marketing. And so, yeah. Any concluding words from India?
Thank you, Tim. I think it was quite interesting for the companies here to at least have the very first impression of this ESPR. So I think thank you for providing in a very simple language, even though there are quite many texts to read behind the slides, which give some information on the industry. So my recommendation is that in India, our focus is to support companies, and please follow all the sessions on ESPR by REACHLaw, and you will of course have some, as Tim mentioned. Next week we'll have some talk specific from the guest speaker. So please find some time and attend these sessions from us. And we would be expanding more insights and more like product specific when we have more information on coming from these acts and more monitoring work that we do. We can support you also if you have specific interest in this and you want to lead the sustainability work in your company, you do some reporting. So if you want to, we can always support you and have a discussion one-to-one. So please send this request to Tim, and we'll be glad to support in any manner we can. So, and also thanking CHEMEXCIL for giving this platform. I think without you, it would not be possible to have this attendees attending this webinar today. So I would like to thank CHEMEXCIL to continue to support their members, and they've been tremendous. And I think the first one to set up this kind of session from REACHLaw, and we are happy and glad to support you and your members. Thank you once again.